Namaste folks, this is Vineet from the urbanastronomer.com. So today's video is a tutorial on AstroSurface. It is a program that helps us with astrophotography, and in this tutorial we want to go over how we can do planetary stacking or planetary astrophotography with AstroSurface. So basically, to get AstroSurface, just go to astrosurface.com, flip to the language that you want, and you can basically download the latest version of the software from here, this download link. Okay, so as of this recording, the latest is Omega 2. And it's fairly simple to install this. There is no installer or anything. You just unzip the zip file into a folder of your choice and you can use it from there. So basically, in my case, I've installed it into this path. And to run the program, we just double click on astrosurface.exe and that will bring up the AstroSurface program. So now basically this is the AstroSurface program. And you can see it is the Omega 2 version, which is released on 15th of November 2020. So the cool thing about AstroSurface is it is similar to Registax. You can do the stacking in AstroSurface, and then you can proceed to do wavelets and any of the other, some of them also like the post-processing processes that we might want to do in GIMP and things like that, like adjusting the the saturation and those kind of things, or even adding some text. So even adding some text messages, these can be done right within AstroSurface. So it's actually a pretty good program. You might actually be able to, as far as planetary photography is concerned, you might be able to do everything that you want to do with the image processing and the final output right within AstroSurface. So I just want to give a shout out before we begin to Scott Bass. He's the one who actually introduced me to this program on one of the QHYCCD Facebook forums. And he actually gave me a list of steps to just, help me get started on this program. And that was really helpful because there is a set of steps that you need to do. It may not be completely obvious by just looking at this. So I don't know, maybe in a future version of the program, maybe over here we can just have an image on what you need to do, like analyze first, register, analyze, stack, and so on. But anyways, this is a fantastic program. So let's actually dive into how we can process planetary images from planetary videos, basically planetary stacking with AstroSurface. So hopefully most of you already know how to do planetary stacking. If that's not the case, I'm just going to give a brief intro. If you're not interested in that, you can skip ahead. I will be splitting this video into chapters so that it's easy to navigate to any part of the tutorial that you wish to see. So the way we actually do planetary imaging is first we take a footage like this. Okay, so to take a video footage of the planets, either you might have an astronomy camera, which you will connect to your computer, and then you can use a program like SharpCap, which I have used to capture this particular footage. Otherwise, you can also use a DSLR with a T adapter and a T-ring to connect to the telescope, and then use that footage from that. Which might usually be stored in an MOV file or something. If that is the case, then you will need to actually convert the MOV file into an AVI file or an SCR file, because that is what is needed by most of the processing programs. And if you need to do that, you can use a program called PIPP. This I have already discussed in my earlier planetary videos. I might revise that soon, but in any case, I will link to the latest planetary video which discusses that on this video, so you can use the cards to navigate there and check if you want. There's one more option. If you're really just starting out, you have a beginner setup and you don't want to spend additional money on any of and you don't have a DSLR, then you can actually use a mobile adapter and a mobile phone to actually capture video footage, and this actually depends on the mobile that you have, on how well you can capture the footage and how good the output is going to be. You can actually get pretty good images, especially for lunar and also for planetary, with just using mobile phones. Okay, In that case also you might want to use a PIPP to convert that into AVIs. And there are some tips and tricks in PIPP where you can just enter the planet, make the AVI file small. So all those I've actually discussed in my other videos. So let's get to processing with AstroSurface, and I will be using this footage. Okay, so the first step is we will open the footage. Okay, and we will get this code decoder dialog. And on this dialog, what we need to do is we can actually set the parameters over here. Like you do, is it a monochrome video? If it is a raw file like SCR, or is there a Bayer pattern, which is basically when we have a color image, what Bayer pattern do we need to use? Usually it will just select the default. You can keep that, or then if you are aware of your Bayer pattern, you can select that. So you can just flip through and make sure that you're getting the correct one. As I'm flipping through, you can see that the color over here is changing. So you can make out with that, like what is the correct Bayer pattern to use. So in my case, it is Bayer GB ACR or AVI raw. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to say register. Okay, so this is the first step. We have to register the AVI or the ACR. So when we click on register, we will get this analyze and register dialog. Okay, so when we look at this analyze and register dialog, we have two options over here. One is small objects, stars, or deep sky, which is the algorithm S. And another one is disk or surface features with details. So you can see this is a Martian disk. And usually for Planetary, you will select disk or surface with details, which is algorithm C. And then basically over here, there's an option called disk planet. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to click detect over here, and that puts a box around the planet, and we need to double click that. Okay, then that brings about this green box with an additional green box inside that, and we can click on analyze. Okay, so this basically enables the next section. You can see that this section analyze was not enabled before. So once we detect and we double click on the planet, the next section is enabled, which is analyze and select the best images. Okay, and as you see, we have selected algorithm C here, and there's a graph C here. We click on analyze, and this limit images is basically the total number of frames that I have in the video footage. We click on analyze. So it has analyzed the footage, and it has enabled the stacking and the alignment mode sections over here. You can see there are some other images, some other options over here, like reference image inspection and things like that. You can try that if you want. If you need to inspect the reference image, you can do that. There is this graph auto open. So once the analysis is done, it can open the graph automatically. Otherwise, you can click on this graph C, and it will give you a rough graph that shows what is the quality of the footage that you have. I'm just going to leave this as 50%. You can obviously use a slider to move it around and pick what you want. There is also a half stack option, which is it will stack half of the 50% over here. I'm just going to leave that off. I'm just going to use 50%, and that means that it will stack around 2066 frames from my total 4133 frames that it had, that was there in the footage. To stack the video, which is basically taking the best frames and then combining all of that into a single image, that is what is stacking, right? So to do that, I just need to press stack. There are some options here. So I just chose 90% to normalize, and then resize as 100%. You can also resize to a, if you want a bigger image, you can try resizing into something else like 200 up to 200%. What is the output format that you want it to be? So it can be a PNG, TIFF file, or a FIT file. I leave it to you to choose what you want. I'm just going to leave it at PNG for now, but you can also use one of the other formats. Since you're opening it in AstroSurface itself, there should not be a problem. Maybe you can, while you're saving, you can convert it into the correct format. Alignment mode I'm going to leave as is, which is just using global settings as of now, and it is going to save in a directory called aligned in the folder where the video file is. Okay, So I'm just going to stack this. So it has created a stacked image over here. Okay, so you can see the stacked version of the image. Now, when we stack an image, even in Autostakkert, when once you look at the stacked image, it looks a little bit blurry. So there are additional operations that we are supposed to perform. So in Autostakkert, what we would do, we would take this file and then import it into Registax and then do the wavelet processing here. So the neat thing about AstroSurface is that you can actually do the wavelet processing right within the same program. I'm going to click on edit of this file. So it will ask whether do I want to close the analysis options, which is there. I will say yes. So now we are using the basically the stacked image has been opened in AstroSurface. So there are multiple options here that are now enabled and that we can use on the image. So I'm just going to enable white balance initially, just a bit to 100% and say okay. And I'm going to open the wavelets. You can see that it has immediately transformed the image. The reason is that I was already playing with the wavelets and there is already some options applied. So let me just reset this and you can see it has gone back to what it was before. So there are multiple options over here to work on this image. So what I like to do is I will just enable wavelets HF. Okay, I'm going to increase it and you can see that all the details are coming up nicely on the Martian image. But you can see that it is a little bit noisy. So we have the option of zooming in if you want like this, so that we can take a good look at the image that we are working on. So I'm just going to start using the noise pre-filter so that you can see that really brings down the noise in the image. In the RGB section, there is also color noise reduction. So you can use that if you want to further reduce the noise. There is also a wavelets LF that I'm going to use to increase the sharpness of the details. Okay, so you can see this edge rind effect. So that is a problem with pushing our telescope. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm not too bothered with that. So I will leave it as it is. We have additional noise filters over here. Okay, so we can apply it a bit to just smoothen the image a little bit. Okay, so let's look at it at 1x again. And that is the Martian image that I have right now. So you can obviously play around with these settings and then find what is the correct options for you. Maybe I will just bring this down a notch to 90. Okay, that looks good to me. So I'm going to say okay. So now we have this image which we can further work on. So now if you want to do a white balance once more, you can see I'm just going to say cancel for now. And there are other options. So I do want to rotate this. Okay, so my image was basically flipped because I'm using a mirror in the image train in my diagonal. So I'm just going to, and that's not a good idea, but then I'm just lazy. So I just use the diagonal in the train. So we have the option of something called mirror and it has flipped it. Okay. And we have to click OK. And if you want to rotate the angle, we'll have to rotate it again like this. Okay. Supposing I want it to look like this. Okay. So I'm happy with that. And I'm going to say OK. Okay. In the viewer, we can basically click on auto and then it will auto brighten the image. You can also boost to make it even further, invert, and then reset to original. Then there are multiple options here, like we have resize, which is obvious what that does. And then there is and crop. There's the levels option, which will automatically adjust the levels for you. So there is a maximum ADU, minimum ADU and maximum ADU here that we can play around with to adjust it manually. Okay, I'm just going to say auto and it has done that. So I'll just say okay. Then there is a black and white point. okay, that you can select if you want. There is exposure, okay, so I can increase the gain or the offset or even the gamma contrast. So these will help bring out, for example, if there are moons. Though in my footage I've not been actually able to capture the Martian moons, but in case of Jupiter, Saturn, things like that, these actually help bring out. If you want to make a composite with the moons and the planet, these options can help bring out, yeah, the layer that you want to use for the moons, for example. You can increase the contrast and look for it. Okay, I'm just going to reset this. Then there are multiple noise options over here. So there's a noise pre-filter. You can see it has become a little blurry, and then you can apply the noise reduction on top of that. There is a darken shadows option. You can look at the darker areas, what is happening, and to the edge of the Mars. So these options are available. You can reduce color noise over here, and there is also a reduce blur option here once you have used. I'm not going to use these options for now, so I'm just going to reset it and cancel. There's a HDR option. So here we can do a bit of color saturation if you want. Okay, so if I increase it to 15%, you can see the color saturation has increased. I like to use this on Jupiter and Saturn sometimes because it really makes the layers pop. Okay. Let's actually use this. Say okay. So I'll just apply white balance again, and you can see these are actually clouds. So the clouds are actually turned into white now. So let's keep that. Okay. Then again, there are multiple options like color noise. If you want to reduce the color noise in the image, okay, let me cancel that. It's become a little bit more noisy because of the saturation. Let me go back to noise and just slightly decrease the noise in that. Okay. Okay. Then there are other options like L contrast. Okay. So if you modify this, you can see the effect on the image. So it is bringing out more details here. So it's something that if you are interested, you can try it out. And there's also equalize histogram that is having different impact on the surface features over here. Okay. So let me actually use this equalize histogram, and then there's a gain RGB. So in gain RGB, if you want to work on each of the channels individually, so you can do that. So if I bump up the red, you can see that the planet is looking more red. Or to reduce green, which is what I need to do sometimes because the green is more sensitive on my camera. Or increase blue, decrease. I'm just going to reset it, cancel. The saturation, this is again specifically working on saturation. You can increase the color noise pre-filter and then increase saturation and brightness of the image. Then there's align RGB, where you can select and then say align, and it will do align. So this is useful if you're working on Venus, or in general if your RGB channels are misaligned, then this will try and align it for you. Okay. Then there are multiple deconvolution options over here which you can use if you want. Okay, I'm kind of happy with this image. So there are a lot of other options also available. So like, for example, image tools, filters, geometry, some of them are common from here, others are not. So you can actually check for other options also. So for example, there is something like perspective here. So this is interesting. So you can look at what happens. in case if you want your Mars image to look like it is flat or something of that sort. And there we have a flat Mars. So these kind of options are also available. So there are some simple additional tools like add text. Okay, so I can just say the urbanastronomer.com. You can select the font, do all that stuff. Okay, so it is put it on the top. So if wherever we want to place it on the image, we just have to double click and it will place it on the image. There are also some options like adding photo borders. So like that, if you want to use that. So let me undo that and crop this. Double click it, it will come over there. I will say okay, and if you want to add a border, apply there. So this is something that we can publish directly to Instagram and things like that. To save it at any stage, just go to save as and then save it with a different name or something, and then you can reopen the file or at that stage. Okay, so if you want to finally save this image, I can just say save image, and then you can see that it has made a folder called aligned inside AstroSurface. This is the original stacked image. I'll just say Mars share or something like that and save it. Okay, so I hope this tutorial was useful, and of course if you already know how to use Registax and Autostakkert, then you can dive right in with these steps and then try out all the options that you want. And I will continue to share tutorials like this on different tools. So there is one more specifically for Mars. I want to share how to create smooth animations of Mars using Winju pose and derotation. So that will be coming up pretty soon in the next week or two. So do subscribe if you are interested in astronomy and astronomy tutorials, or just my live streams with the planets, or my sometimes I take the footage, I process it, and you can see my Mars videos where I have named the different features. So this is basically Citrus Major over here. um, so if you are generally interested in astronomy and astronomy videos, please do consider subscribing to my channel. If you found this useful, do leave a like, and also do comment. I enjoy reading comments from people and then interacting with folks. So thanks a lot for watching. Hope you found this useful.